Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our AFL 2023 fixture reaction series, and in today's video we're going to be reacting to Gold Coast 2023 AFL fixture. So let's go ahead and hop right into things. Alright, so before I do just want to go ahead and start, we are starting to get through the series now as well. We're getting quite a fair way in. We've already done Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, Fremantle and Geelong. And then, of course, still teams like Sydney, West Coast and Western Bulldogs are towards the back end of the series. But after this one and after the Giants, we are officially halfway through this series, which is amazing. It's gone pretty quickly, to be completely honest. And before I do just go ahead and start, one more thing to say is that Gold Coast Suns, they're going to be a very interesting team heading into the 2023 AFL season. A lot of people would like to see them make finals, and that is almost kind of their expectation now. After a really good 2022. So let's see if this is the fixture that could potentially lead them to the finals, and feel free to let me know in the comment section if you think they will make the finals based on this fixture. So round number 1 is a pretty good way to start the season if you're a Gold Coast fan. If you're a Sydney fan, you probably wouldn't like this fixture. Gold Coast versus Sydney, Metricon Stadium. Second Saturday night game. Now, this is going to be an interesting game because Sydney were grand finalists last year, so they probably would have wanted a better opponent. Maybe somebody like Geelong, maybe Fremantle, maybe Collingwood, maybe Richmond, for example. But no, they're going to get given Gold Coast in round number 1, or maybe even Carlton, but they're going to be given Gold Coast in round number 1 at Metricon Stadium, and this is going to be an absolute cracking contest. I reckon Gold Coast and Sydney do play out some pretty good games, so I reckon this is going to be a really good game. A very tough start of the season. I reckon Gold Coast, don't rule them out of the upset. I reckon this is going to be an absolute cracker. So round number 2, Marvel Stadium, Essendon versus Gold Coast. And this is going to be another not so bad game as well, considering both sides aren't 100% the best of sides. Essendon, they may not be great again in 2023. Gold Coast, they're not the best side at Marvel. So this is what's going to make up for a very interesting contest right here. I reckon, look, either side could win. This is another really 50-50 game. This one is going to be an absolute cracker. And I reckon the Suns could definitely go 0-2 or 2-0 to start off the season. Or maybe they do go 1-1. But two very belting games to start off the season for Gold Coast. So round number 3 is Metricon Stadium. Gold Coast versus Geelong. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be as good of a game as the first couple have been. But don't rule Gold Coast out of the upset at Metricon, but I do feel like this one might be a little bit more, Gold Coast might not be so much in the game. But look, the first two are going to be absolute crackers. I don't think this one will be. I feel like the Cats will get a pretty good hold on this one. But again, you cannot rule Gold Coast out of the upset, as I've said. But yeah, that one's going to be an interesting one. Round number 4 is where things get interesting as well. Back to Marvel Stadium, they go to play St Kilda. St Kilda versus Gold Coast, round number 4, second Saturday night game. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be the second one, but Saturday night game at Marvel. Now, this is going to be a pretty good contest as well, I reckon, because both these sides, I reckon, in 2023 are going to be quite evenly matched. So, Gold Coast went to Marvel Stadium round 2, they head back in round 4. This is going to be a really good game, I reckon. This is going to be an absolute cracking game. And the two King brothers are going to be going head-to-head, I'd be thinking. I'm not sure injury-wise whether anything's going to mess that up. But I reckon at the moment, things are looking okay for the two brothers to be going head-to-head in round 4. And that's going to produce an even more cracking contest than what we already have right there, which is already a cracker. So round number 5, not a bad contest either here. Fremantle versus Gold Coast, Norwood Oval, South Australia, obviously for the Magic round. And look, I reckon this is going to be another good game. I reckon Gold Coast have been given some pretty good games to open up the season. And the reason why this game is made so good is because, well, it's neutral territory. Neither of these two teams have played at Norwood Oval before. It's neutral territory, which I reckon this could be a good game. Not saying that it will be, but I reckon this definitely could be a pretty good game between these two sides. So yeah, I definitely reckon do try and watch that one, because I reckon that one could be another pretty good game. And I reckon these first 4 games, these first 5, are real interesting games for the Gold Coast Suns. Now round number 6 is Gold Coast versus North Melbourne at Metricon. That one should be a pretty comfortable win to the Gold Coast Suns. I don't really see anything too interesting about that one. Round number 7, Richmond versus Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. This is another really good game here as well. Richmond versus Gold Coast Marvel. Richmond are not great at Marvel. Gold Coast. Not sure how good they're going to be at Marvel by the time this comes around. This is their third trip there for the season, and I reckon this is going to be an absolute cracking contest, just considering Richmond are not good there. They lost to North Melbourne in 2022, which is definitely why I feel like Gold Coast could definitely be a chance in that game and produce an absolute cracking contest. Round 8, it is Gold Coast versus Melbourne at Metricon Stadium. Now, this one's probably going to be good as well, because I do see Gold Coast definitely competing in this game, just like what they did in 2022 against Melbourne at Metricon Stadium on a Saturday night. I think in round 2, was it? Round 2? Or round 3, no, round 2 I'm pretty sure it was. They actually competed really well, so I reckon this one could be another game where they compete very, very, very well and dish up a really good contest. So round number 9, West Coast versus Gold Coast. It's a late Friday night game, Friday night doubleheader, that's why it's starting so late. Round 9, West Coast versus Gold Coast at Optus Stadium. Now, this could be another good game, just considering Optus Stadium isn't the easiest place to go ahead and play, considering with the major time difference in Perth, and also just a couple of other factors which just make it quite hard. There's only 2 teams that play there. You don't really get a trip there that often. Now, in 2022, Gold Coast went there in round 1 and actually played pretty well. I'd expect them to go back and do the same again. But it's already 9 rounds into the season. We don't know how these two sides are going to be come that time. But I reckon this could be another pretty decent game as well. Considering West Coast, I don't think they performed too badly in these kind of Friday night time slots, like these late Friday night time slots. I don't think they're too bad. They did beat Essendon in 2022 in that time slot. So this could be a better game than what we all think. So round 10 is a Q clash at the Gabba. And I reckon there is a chance for the upset here for the Gold Coast Suns. Do they pull off the upset in this game? They've been getting closer and closer and closer to that Q Clash win. If it's not here, I reckon they could strike later on in the season when they got their own Q Clash at Metricon. But I reckon they're going to compete really hard in this one. So round 11 and round number 12, there's both a pretty decent story behind both of these games. So round 11 is Gold Coast versus Western Bulldogs, Saturday night, TIO Stadium. And then around 12, it is Gold Coast versus Adelaide, TIO Stadium. Both Saturday night games, and there's definitely some story behind these contests. So it's been a tradition in the past couple of years where Gold Coast head up to the Northern Territory to play 2 games of footy, which means they end up staying the week in the Northern Territory. So they're playing Gold Coast versus Western Bulldogs. Round 11, they stay the week in the Northern Territory, and then round 12 play Gold Coast. They play Adelaide before then heading back home or heading wherever they need to next. But I feel like it's a pretty good thing, and the club rates this very highly, considering not most, but some of their players, they've actually got quite a number of players that come from the Northern Territory. They learn some cultural activities up there, and they also there was one more thing which I was going to say, but I can't quite remember what it was. But yeah, they learn some cultural activities up there. A lot of their players in academy prospects do come from the Northern Territory, which is why they do go ahead and go up there and play these 2 games every year back to back. In normally these rounds as well, typically round 11 and round 12 as part of the Indigenous round as well. Round 13 is their bye. Round 14 is Carlton versus Gold Coast at the MCG. Now, this game might be okay, but look, considering it's at the MCG, I don't think that I'd rate Gold Coast at the MCG that much. So that's why I'd say this one's probably not going to be as great as most of the other contests. Round 15, Gold Coast versus Hawthorn at Metricon Stadium. That should be a comfortable win as well for the Gold Coast Suns there as well. Now round 16, Gold Coast versus Collingwood Metricon Stadium. They've got a couple of crackers coming up here. Gold Coast versus Collingwood Metricon Stadium. We remember the clash they played in 2022 on a Saturday night. This one's going to be another really good contest as well. Both sides are probably going to be not necessarily around evenly matched, but Metricon Stadium does make it that little bit harder for Collingwood to go ahead and play up there. So I reckon that's going to be a cracker. Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast at the Adelaide Oval. Gold Coast again got oh so close to winning there last year. They lost by 2 points. Port Adelaide, you'd expect to bounce back this year and be a better side, but could this still dish up a good contest? Maybe. Now, the next round, Gold Coast versus St Kilda, Metricon Stadium. That's going to be another good game, considering these two sides are going to be evenly matched. Now, I reckon Metricon Stadium does give Gold Coast the little upside, but considering I really don't know where these two sides are going to be in 2023, they're both really big wild cards heading into the season. that's what makes these games so interesting, especially between these two sides, Gold Coast and St Kilda. They'll play each other in round 4. They're going to play each other again later on this season. And this is going to be, both those games, I reckon, could be absolute crackers. So then they go ahead and play the Giants at Manuka Oval, which isn't the easiest of places to play at either. The wind down there can be actually quite tough. And it's not a place that you play at very often. I don't really know how many times the Suns have even played there, whether they've even played there at all, to be completely honest. But I reckon this could be a pretty good game just based on the difficulty of not knowing down there. And who knows, the Giants, I feel like they could typically give up a bit of a fight down there at Manuka. So I reckon that could be a pretty good game. And then you've got Gold Coast versus Brisbane at Metricon Stadium. Is this, if they don't do it early on in the season when they play the Lions at the Gabba, is this the time that they upset and win a Q Clash? Could it be? Could it be? Maybe. Then they play the Crows at the Adelaide Oval, which is going to be another pretty good game. Considering it's the Adelaide Oval, the Crows give their best fights definitely there. And then they play the Swans at the SCG, which they're always in the hunt for an upset there. The Blues at Metricon Stadium, which they could upset that one. And then a pretty tough end to the season playing North Melbourne at Blunston, just considering that Blunston is quite a hard place to play, although Gold Coast would definitely be up for the fight in that as well. So I reckon this is going to be a really interesting fixture for the Gold Coast Suns. Do I think it's a fixture that could lead them into finals? I reckon it could be. I reckon this fixture could lead them into the finals for sure in 2023. It's an interesting one. It's looking very interesting for them. Now, hardest patch for the season. This is going to be an interesting one. Let's just go ahead and have a quick little look. They do open up with 5 very tough games, and then they've got a few more here. I reckon it's this patch. So 1 Richmond, 2 Melbourne, 3 West Coast, 4 Brisbane, 5 Bulldogs, 6 Adelaide, you could say, 7 Carlton. It is pretty tough along there, but then you've got Collingwood, Port Adelaide, St Kilda, GWS, Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, Carlton, all in a row. Those are pretty tough. I'd say Adelaide and the Giants are probably the easiest teams to upset in there, maybe St Kilda, but they do have a couple of tough patches. But yeah, feel free to let me know if you think the Suns are making the finals based on this fixture. Thank you guys, it was so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Send you guys and never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys, it was smart. Bye everyone, Flaming Footy out.